From Public Radio International, this is The World. A co-production of the BBC World Service, PRI, and WGBH Boston. It's Monday, May 24th. I'm Marco Werman. Hillary Clinton is in Beijing. The Secretary of State is leading a delegation in the annual high-level U.S.-China talks. Tensions on the Korean Peninsula are dominating the discussions. Also, patients in Sudan see both a psychiatrist and an exorcist. And a British man breaks the lawnmower speed record. The American whose record fell thinks he can regain the title.
You know, they was talking about doing 100, and I was really nervous about that, but 87, 88, that's something I might can handle.
Now this news.
BBC News with Jim Lee. The International Monetary Fund has called on Spain to carry out urgent and far-reaching reforms to its economy. With growing concern about the country's debt and signs of only fragile economic recovery, the IMF said changes must be made to the labour market, which it described as dysfunctional. Here's Andrew Walker.
It's not the first time that the IMF has said Spain needs economic reform, but the language has a much greater sense of urgency. The background is the European government debt crisis and concerns about economic growth prospects. The IMF says bluntly that the Spanish labour market is not working and needs reform of pay bargaining and lower payments for fired workers. The report says it's important that there be no slippage in the government's plans to reduce its borrowing needs. The IMF also says there's more to do to repair the financial system.
The British oil giant BP, facing stinging criticism over its handling of attempts to stem the oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico, has pledged up to $500 million to fund a 10-year research effort aimed at studying the long-term effect of the spill on the shoreline and marine environment. At the same time, the Obama administration, which holds BP responsible for the damage, has been forced to defend its own handling of the disaster, as Paul Adams reports.
Administration officials continue to take a tough line with BP. After leading a delegation of politicians on a tour of the affected area, the Secretaries of Interior and Homeland Security both repeated a now familiar mantra. BP is responsible for the damage, and the administration will maintain pressure on the oil company until the crisis is over. Interior Secretary Ken Salazar, who on Sunday caused a stir by threatening, as he put it, to push BP out of the way, said the government would keep its foot on the oil company's neck.
A Kenyan court has ruled that Islamic courts are illegal and discriminatory under the current constitution. They said that as Kenya was a secular country, this was unconstitutional. Mary Harper has the details.
A panel of 3 judges ruled that the provision for Islamic courts in the constitution favoured Islam over other faiths. The Christian Church in Kenya, which brought the case to court 6 years ago, has long been opposed to the existence of Islamic courts, which mainly deal with matters of marriage and inheritance. The issue of Islamic courts and that of abortion have been a sticking point in the country's new proposed constitution, which is due to go to a referendum in August.
Ethiopia's election commission says provisional results from Sunday's parliamentary election show that the governing party of Prime Minister Meles Zenawi has a clear lead, winning 9 out of 11 regions. After almost 2 decades in office, it was widely expected that Mr Meles would win. The election has been condemned by the human rights group Human Rights Watch as theatre. It said the polls were preceded by months of repression. The vote is seen as a test after the last disputed election in 2005 led to violence. World News from the BBC. Police in Jamaica say 2 officers have been killed and others injured after they came under attack by gunmen linked to an alleged drugs dealer. The violence erupted following the government's plans to extradite the man, Christopher Dudas Coke, to the United States to face drugs and weapons charges. On Sunday, gang members attacked and firebombed police stations in West Kingston, where a state of emergency has been declared. Our reporter Nick Davis has been on the streets of Kingston. He describes what he saw.
Vehicles in front of us all spun around, made very sharp U-turns, driving back in the opposite direction, driving towards us. We then could hear clearly the sound of automatic weapon fire. We drove